There's sex appeal and there's sax appeal. Well, both have been part of Las Vegas entertainment for decades. And continuing the tradition of sax appeal is my guest, Billboard charting saxophonist Patrick Lamb. He's performing at Gambit in Henderson this Saturday, August 19th at 9 p.m. For ticket information, go to gambithenderson.com. And for everything about Patrick Lamb, go to patricklamb.com, and you can follow him on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Apple Music. And Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. This is going to be a great convo. I'm excited about coming to town, and we got a lot of friends there I haven't seen in a long time. And plus, this is kind of a new, just a new thing for me, because I've been touring with so many other people for so long, and really, but what I've really learned is creating a solo career is a totally different thing. People are like, well, I saw you with, Gino Vanelli or Bobby Caldwell or Diane Shure. Wow, he was great, but why would I go see Patrick? I don't. There's an element of just keeping it real here. Having to somehow connect, because we're in the business of connection. The happiness business, if you will. So I'm looking forward to connecting with people. But there's a lot of people out there who don't really know what it is I do live on my own. So I'm really truly excited about that, because wherever we go, it doesn't matter. This is the first year that I've been going to different cities and doing, shows on my own. Like we just played Spaghettini's, my debut show, sold out. We played Middle C the second time. The first time was kind of like, lukewarm, like who is this person? And second time was sold out. And then playing Funky Biscuit, packed, playing different places on my own. So it's exciting, and I have a really funkified kind of more, I would say, almost R&B leaning show. So it's super fun, and I can't wait to see you guys.
Well, it's funny because you just started before I even had a question. You answered 9 of them. So let me get to my 10th question.
Hey, thanks everybody.
Now, the first thing you said I want to pick up on, because you've been performing with a lot of different people, and I'm going to explain why in a second, but why go see Patrick? What is it about you that's so unique that we want to hear you and see you and hear you perform and, connect with you? Since you brought it up, you've got unique qualities. Let's face it. That's why you're touring.
Well, I'll leave that up to you to decide. I can't tell you. I give music and I give life 200%. So I know I love the material. I love the musicians that I'm blessed to play with. Like one of them is Johnny Friday. I know you know him. And we toured with Bobby Caldwell. So it's a small, really, in the big scheme of things, a small team of people that are running in behind the scenes of the touring professional world. So it's great to connect with those people in that context too, because you come onto these gigs, Smokey Robinson or whatever is sort of a hired gun, which is super fun. In fact, there's an element of that I love more than anything else, because I'm a producer. I put together shows. I run jazz at the Oxford in Bend, Oregon for the last 13 years. So I fly in everybody from Arturo Sandoval to the late great Joey DiFrancesco, Diane Shure. So I come at it from that side. So I love just showing up as a high-end mercenary, and just here, play that, sing backgrounds.
A lot of people don't know that your first gig out of college was actually with Diane Shure, who was a guest on my show several years ago. But the overarching question I wanted to ask you, and that's why I wanted to have you on, is why the sax as opposed to any other instrument? What got you into sax? What was the appeal, and how did you stick with it after all these years?
Well, when you're coming up, I don't think well, I could just speak for myself. I didn't, I wasn't thinking of those things, when I'm 13, 14, nobody comes and knocks on your door when you're 13 and goes, "Hey, Ira, would you like to play the flute?" That's why I'm a big proponent of beginning band programs, because ironically enough, Chris Botti and I have the same beginning band teacher. And he's obviously he's a little more seasoned than I am, but I wasn't, in the same time frame. But Mr. Robert Ernst was the instigator, so it always takes that one person. For me, I was moving every year in the South. Like, I'm from the South, so I was born in Jackson, Mississippi. I try to make this short and sweet, but
no, it's okay. But you moved like 12 times though, right?
And I still got to ask my parents why we moved so much, because I still know the answer to that question. They were teachers. We lived in like rural Mississippi. If any of you out there have been there, you know what that's like. I mean, to look at me now, it's like the last thing you would expect to see. Not whatever, but you would just not expect me to be from Boyle, Mississippi. I mean, Boyle, Raymond, Cleveland, Mendenhall,
all the big cities. Sure.
My stepdad taught at Delta State, so they were very small, flat. We lived next to a cotton field. I walked to school. I was like one of two white kids in the Boyle Elementary where I went to first, second grade. So anyway, to make a long story short, back to your question. So we moved and moved. And my stepdad got a teaching job at in the Northwest called Oregon Episcopal School, which is one of the best schools actually in the area, the nation, some people would say. And so but he couldn't afford to send me there when we went there. It's like a really expensive school, so he couldn't afford to send me there. So they sent me to Cedar Park and the public school. And ironically, Cedar Park had a music program and Oregon Episcopal did not. So it's just funny. You can never understand how what you think is for your demise is actually for your blessings. So they had a beginning band program, and my parents were always late. Like, I don't know, I was always like the new guy coming to school, so I came to school.
Do you have out of curiosity, do you have a Beacon's frequent mover card or anything like that?
I do not.
Okay. Just with having to move all those times, I just thought you might have one of those things. That's a joke.
Yeah.
Didn't work well, but it's okay.
I didn't pass the intelligence test on that one. I'm sorry about that. But we moved to Portland and Oregon, and they rolled me in school at Cedar Park, and it's like, this is what I remember about my childhood. I was always like the new guy late enrolling in school. So I had like no friends, right? And everybody else had already chosen what they wanted to play, right? Pretty much. So I remember coming into class and remember being late to class for whatever reason, and there was like 9 trumpet players, 16 drummers, or everybody wants to play the loud instrument. So the only thing left to play was like he needed a clarinet and a saxophone. And so I tried clarinet, I didn't like it. And then I picked up the saxophone, and then that was just something that I found I could do. The only thing that I knew how to do. And so I started playing saxophone. I went through all the books. I was like, wow, yeah, I might actually be good at something. And I'm going to keep this super short.
No, that's fine.
But so went through all the books really quickly. My stepdad's a musician, played piano. He came back one day. He's like, "Oh, you think you're pretty good here, don't you?" So he brought me this thing called the Charlie Parker Omnibook, which is like a transcription of Charlie Parker solos. He said, "Here, you learn that." And so actually I started working on that, and then I started going out to jam sessions locally, and then through that is really how you sort of get a name, or if that's the the ether of the music business. Like, how do you get these tours? I don't know. People talk about you, they get your number, and then you get a call. And that's what happened with Diane Shore. I got a call somewhere into that, I've been going to jam sessions a couple of years, and somehow, well, this a friend of mine named Tim Bryson had a big corporate gig he couldn't get out of, and he said, "Hey, Patrick, I've got this gig with this lady named Diane Shore." I was like, "Huh, I don't know," and and so he anyway, to make a long story short, I talked to her manager. He sent me her records, and they had Stan Getz solos all over them. So that was my first clue. So I transcribed all of those. My first gig was at Snitzer Hall, sold out after like her second Grammy. Scared me half to death. I was like, wow, I've never experienced that. And then she put me on a bunch of dates after that. Since then I've either been touring with her or Bobby Caldwell or Gino Vanelli. I did some stuff with Jeff Lorber Fusion for a while as a sub. And that's a long story made short.
Well, and now, I mean, you've been touring and you're coming to Las Vegas again. I mentioned you're going to Gambit in Henderson this Saturday, August 19th. Is this your first time performing in Las Vegas, or have you performed before?
Well, ironically, I played there before with Gino Vanelli. Was my first gig there at one of the large, I'm trying to think of the name of it. Is it the
Smith Center?
I can't even remember the name of it, but it was with Gino Vanelli. Big hall.
Yeah, probably at Smith Center
in
downtown Las Vegas.
Yeah, so that was the first
big Art Deco building.
Yeah,
the Center for the Performing Arts, right? So you've had some experience performing it. Do you like Las Vegas? And could you see yourself doing a residency here so you wouldn't have to tour? Or do you like the touring? Is it just keep you fresh all the time because you're going into different venues and locales?
I think, the more I've toured, I've been touring so long, I think it's important to be exposed to all kinds of different elements. And so I mean, that's it. That being said, everybody likes some steady cash, right? But
yes, of course.
But I mean, I'm super busy, and I live on the beach with my other half. So, like right now, I'm looking out over the beach and a pool. That's where I sold my place in Oregon, which is just rainy, And I did all the Oregon stuff. I ran the hood to coast. I climbed Mount Hood. I did the 100-mile run. I try to stay healthy. Here, I'm gonna do it real slow. I'm just gonna show you a little bit. So that's
okay for our listeners. He's showing me nice. There's the pool. Now, I always wondered why people that live at the ocean or at the beach have a pool when they have the ocean. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I just never could figure that out.
Well, you get your salt water, you get your fresh water.
That makes sense. Does it inspire you, though, in terms of when you're working on stuff? Does it inspire you to look out and see the ocean or the beach?
It does. Yeah. And what I learned is from living in Oregon for so long is I'm really a beach boy who's never had a beach. And so I'm really active, like down here in Palm Beach where I live now, I play soccer almost every day, and there's a very high level of soccer down here, if people don't know. And
no, I didn't know. Yeah.
I mean, everybody has been playing soccer since they were like 6 months old. I mean,
well, do they play soccer? Do they play soccer on the sand or on a hard surface?
No, it's indoor soccer.
Okay.
No, if you haven't been down here right now, it's hot. It's very, very hot. Very, very, very hot. So you'd want to play indoor soccer, but
right? No, that makes sense. But have you thought, though, Patrick, of combining your two passions and playing soccer while you're playing the sax? Could that work out? I mean, it's a little different breathing, but what do you think?
I think I need all my teeth and fingers. It's probably not good. I took some boxing for a little bit. I played rugby for a little bit for Oregon, but I was the smallest guy on the team. And, I could certainly tackle people, but my shoulders would never feel the same. And
sure.
And
does that keep you in shape for touring, playing soccer?
Yeah. I mean, I think, you're a an athlete, if you don't know it, if you're a musician, I mean, whether you play trumpet or sax, especially drummers, yeah, I think it's super important. It's just important no matter what. I mean, your health is your wealth, So and all it takes is some little thing, like try not being able to,
Right.
see one eye for a week, or your leg, break your foot, and
Your lip gets swollen from a bug bite or something. Yeah, a wasp sting. That would.
Yeah, I'm really conscious of that. I mean, I'm a weird musician. I don't drink or smoke, or any. Like 30 years ago, I put all that away. I don't know.
You try to eat healthy while you're on the road too, because of your.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, I try.
You try. It's hard.
I try. It's hard. It's just a kind of discipline. I kind of go on and off the road, good eating road discipline, because I mean they bring in all these great food, and like with Gino Vanelli's tour, and cakes and cookies.
Yeah, it's just tough.
You walk in, but I try to stay off of it. Like in the morning, I typically have a nice shake with collagen protein, put into it, and
yeah, you look good. So obviously it's working for you, especially because you're touring and you don't look exhausted or fatigued or any of that stuff.
I do my best,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Do you when you plan out a show, and obviously you're feeling good, you're working, you're touring, and now you're planning a show, for example, the one here in Henderson, do you go in a certain direction, or do you mix it up and offer different types of genres of music? What's your approach to music? I guess that's probably the question. I preceded the question with a too complicated question, so I'll make it simple. As you like to say, I'll keep it short, which is, what kind of music do you like to play, and what are you going to be playing at Gambit?
Well, I just want to have fun, I mean, really, and I'm gonna oversimplify it, but and some jazz musicians miss this. It's like we're in the happiness and connection business, with if you have a business, or if you want to have a business, or if you want to make any money. So it's like where the two circles interconnect. So you want to do the stuff that you love, right? And you want to have stuff that your audience loves. So for me, when I'm coming to town, I want to bring something that's an indication, because you got this short amount of time to convey where you're coming from as an artist. And for me, I mean, I've toured internationally doing straight ahead. So, but I really love funk, and soul music. And so if you try to find some, what do you call that? There's a word for it, the Venn diagram, where all of your influences, and then the happiness of the love of the people and what they love, because if you go off too far of their circle, you're not going to get asked back, and nothing much is going to happen. So
you want to be in the nexus of it all. That's it. You want to be there where you're doing enough to please you, but also enough to please the audience. They want you to come back again.
Yeah, it's a happy little zip code in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, try to do that. And it's not a selling out thing. It's just an intelligence, I mean, if you're a full-time musician, there's no doubt there's thousands of songs that you can bring to bear. I mean, just in the straight ahead, for example, I mean, there's, it's limitless, right? And then, but yeah, just connecting with people. Yeah, and for me, stuff that gets me going is stuff that has, I'm trying to simplify, but just Earth, Wind and Fire, souls, changes, some church in it. If it's too boring, if it's too boring, I mean, I get bored, and then it's not fun for me. And so it's got to have some sophistication, some church in it, so most of my music has that. It has has a little church in it, has some kind of Earth, Wind and Fire, soul, stew, a harmonic value to it. And
with a swing, yeah.
So yeah, I try to bring something that's fun for me, and that hopefully conveys as much as I can in 90 minutes, that's a challenge. That's a whole art form, the set list, the set list, not an easy thing to accomplish, to come up with the perfect set list. There's whole books on it, you know, if you want, if yeah, there's books on the formation of a set list, the psychology, I mean, you don't want to overthink it, but it's interesting, you know.
Patrick, though, if you were performing with the set list and you got a sense of the audience that it wanted to go in a different direction, do you have any problems getting off that set list and just improvising?
Not at all. So, you know, I tend to see what people are vibing off of, you know, play a couple of songs, and then I can tell within pretty short order, and then I just kind of, you know, lean right or lean left. So, you know, but the set list, if you come up with a really great set list, that tends to work for most people, you know. So
you have fun with your shows, and you could tell if you ever catch it or see an interview with Patrick, there's an element of fun that's always there. And I think that's part of your personality, let alone presentation on the stage. Have you ever had to do a performance where you couldn't exhibit any fun? Or do you get to, I mean, obviously when you're working for others.
Oh my gosh. I you know, it's funny, I can't, out of respect, I'm not going to mention the name, right? But I'll tell you. So I was at the Bird's Basement in Australia, playing with a certain artist and on tour, and it was one of my first tours with this artist. And you know, my style is like, you know, I want to clap my hands, I want to get people going, come on, clap your hands, you know.
That church.
And on the break, he took me aside. He said, "Hey, we don't do that. There's no, you know, none of that clapping. We let the music speak for itself, you know." So there is that. There's so you asked, and yeah, that's something that comes to mind. I mean, there's definitely people out there who don't believe in transmuting joy.
Well, what they do is they take their music seriously, but they also take themselves seriously. So as a result, there are those artists that just, you have to go and admire the talent and the skill, but you don't get necessarily the fun or the personality.
Yeah, you know, and to each his own.
Sure.
But you know, everything choice you have has its own ramification, has its own result, you know.
Right. Right.
So for me, if you're not conscious of, you know, the people, and, you know, if they don't come and they're not just over the moon, you know, when they leave, if they're not going, "Oh my God, that was fantastic," you know, if they leave and they're just like, yeah, it's pretty cool. That's like the kiss of death, you know.
Do you get a chance usually to meet with the audience after the show?
Yeah, I tried to, for sure. And sign CDs, you know, some people don't do that either, surprisingly, but, you know, I bring CDs to every show, and I enjoy meeting people. I mean, it's a people business, so and I like meeting people, and you know, it's cliche for a reason. Music is such a universal language, so it's something we can all jump into together.
Are you working on a new CD?
Always.
Yeah, exactly. Or new album. People call it albums. Yeah. Some people call it CD. And you've got a home studio, because I know you worked out of there during COVID as well. So are you always recording as well as preparing for the next tour?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's interesting because when I was in Portland, I'm an entrepreneur too. So I started a ticket company. And then that did very, very well, but it took up, like, you know, half of my life, you know, calling people, working with clients, like the Safeway Waterfront Blues Festival, the largest festival on the West Coast. So my company did that. We did about $50 million before it changed hands. And it's great for me to just work on music now, you know. Yeah, I'll show you real slowly here, like what my setup here is, kind of what it looks like.
Great. So for the people who are listening, some great equipment. Look at that.
You know.
Yeah.
So this is kind of my setup here. Yeah.
So you can do everything. You could do everything at home.
Pretty
except
pretty
tour.
much. There's no substitute for like a fantastic drummer, but I'll send tracks to Gordon Campbell, or there's Michael White. They're set up like they'll send you back like the perfect track that sounds perfect. Now I remember that on this last track, Everybody Get Up, that my first self-produced project, and it just came under Billboard. It didn't quite hit Billboard, but I have 3 Billboard top 5 hits, so you gotta go for it. So I love the track Everybody Get Up. It's kind of a party groove, and but I sent the track to Gordon Campbell, and he sent me back like 2 takes overnight, and I was, try as I might, I could not find anything wrong with it. I was like, is that good? Like, that's good. Like, okay, well, that's a wrap. I mean, it's like, man, it's sick. How did you do that? How did you do that? Just, I mean, they've been doing it so long, they can tell by what type of music is, how much, the fills or whatever that's supposed to take place, and they just knock it out. So yeah, Gordon Campbell's on my last one, Chris Big Dog Davis, and then of course me on saxophone, and I record that right here. So yeah, it's great. I love it.
So in that role, are you also the producer as well as the performer?
Yes, it's the first track I put out that I'm the producer, and people love it. So I'm gonna start honing in on kind of my more R&B zone, I think, because that's what I really dig, and that's what a lot of the listeners really dig, kind of the urban funkadelic zone. People don't know I can go there, so that's gonna be fun,
Well, that's a great way to leave it. My guest has been Billboard charting saxophonist Patrick Lamb. He's performing at Gambit in Henderson this Saturday, August 19th at 9 p.m. For ticket information, go to gambithenderson.com. And for everything about Patrick Lamb, go to patricklamb.com. You could follow him on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Apple Music. And Patrick, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to see you guys out at Gambit.
See you next time.